Hey everyone. In this video I want to talk to you about the term alpha male. I believe that we often misuse this term because there is quite often a case where people will call a man an alpha based on appearance alone. And I believe this is a mistake because there are plenty of men who appearance-wise come off like alphas because maybe they're incredibly buff or they're tall or they're just big in general. Maybe they have a long flowing beard or whatever it may be that makes you believe that they're an alpha and that they may have more testosterone than other men. But the problem with labeling people alphas just based on appearance is that being an alpha has very little to do with appearance. I mean, appearance is a very minor portion of it. Sure, more muscular, bigger guys will often be in a better position to be a true alpha, or as I like to call a true extraordinary gentleman, because if you don't know what my definition of that is, I made a video on a similar topic rather recently, which I actually forget the title of. That's very helpful. I'm referencing a previous video that I don't remember the name of, but anyway, in that one I went over the definition of an extraordinary gentleman, and it's basically what I like to view as the epitome of what a man can become. And of course, that's going to include physical strength, because I don't believe you can be your best self if you aren't physically fit, if you aren't physically capable of protecting the people you care about, because you're not always going to have a weapon on you. And I realize even after I say that, actually most people in general do not carry weapons on them. So yeah, you're going to need to be able to defend yourself with just these little dudes and as well as your legs. So it helps to be bigger to be able to defend yourself using those tools. But anyway, that was a bit of a tangent. So obviously, bigger guys can be more alpha if they already have their personality working for them, because they'll have a higher ceiling compared to a guy who only has his personality going for him and who isn't working on himself physically, hitting the gym and that sort of thing. Because even if he's alpha, if he's skinny as a rail, he's kind of shooting himself in the foot in terms of his potential. So people throw around this term way too much because they need to place more emphasis on the fact that being an alpha is way more about personality. So what do I mean here? It means that alphas, true alphas, need to have confidence. They need to be secure in themselves. They need to have good emotional regulation. So even just with those examples, I'm sure you can see how there are plenty of men who look alpha but actually aren't, because there are plenty of guys who are big but who are insecure and who will act macho or tough and basically look for confrontation in an effort to prove themselves to everyone around them. You all know the type, the guys who at bars are loud and rambunctious and look for the biggest possible dude they can find and try to start beef with him, because in their small brains they believe that if they take down the biggest guy in the bar, then it proves to everyone around them that they're alpha, even though quite often doing that leads to them getting beat up, as you'd expect, because that's the logical outcome when you go after the biggest guy you can find. By the way, this concept used to boggle my mind when I would go out with my friends, because all of them were bigger than me. So I always thought I would be the target of those drunk, boisterous idiots, because I was like, I'm the smallest guy. Like, if they want to beat someone up, it makes sense to go after the smallest dude in the group. But no, they often will go for the biggest guy because of that exact reason. They want to prove that they're tough to everyone. And all of my friends back then knew how to fight. So targeting my big friends who could also fight probably wasn't the smartest idea. But anyway, that was an aside, because that concept just, it was astounding to me when I first learned of it. So that is funny. But anyway, getting back to the qualities of an alpha. You need to place way more emphasis on those traits. Alphas are not going to be so insecure that they look to prove themselves to everyone around them, basically looking for validation or attention. They're going to provide those things for themselves. Well, not the attention, obviously. They won't need attention, but they will provide validation for themselves. They're going to believe in what they bring to the table, and they're going to respect themselves enough that they're going to validate themselves. If they feel like there's a task they need to do and they're unsure of whether or not they can do it, they'll probably rile themselves up in their own mind and kind of be their own cheerleader and say, you know what, I got this, I can do this. They're not going to need other people to tell them that. So it's interesting how we often throw this term around. And I will say that I do find this term kind of not super helpful to begin with because of the fact that people use it so incorrectly most of the time, that people use it for those guys who are boisterous and insecure and loud, which they're anything but alpha, but quite often they're the target demographic that everybody labels as alpha, which that's funny to me. And that's basically why I'm making this video, because even if you don't like these terms, which I kind of don't, people throw them around so much to describe others that they've caught on. They're in the lexicon, I guess, of what people tap into. It's everyday language now. So it's useful to use them. But also an interesting thing I'd like to touch on is the fact that we also misuse the term beta, because beta males are supposed to be like second in command. They're supposed to be just under the alpha when it comes to like a hierarchy of leadership or that sort of thing. So we also misuse that term because there are so many beta males, or people that we call beta males, who would be more like zeta males. They'd be all the way at the freaking bottom of the hierarchy, or somewhere in between. So even that term is misused because most beta males, they are not manly enough to be called that term in the first place. But anyway, I just wanted to touch on a few last things here, which is try not to ascribe that alpha quality to things that people do as well. Like, people often think that if a man is going to the gym, if he shoots guns, if he grills steak, if he whatever the hell else other thing you can think of that is stereotypically manly, growing a beard, they often think that that makes a man alpha. But that has nothing to do with whether or not a man is alpha. Sure, an alpha male may participate in those things, and probably that will be the case. I mean, going to the gym, of course, because he's going to want to be better than he was yesterday, and that's a great way of doing that. Shooting guns, yet again, a great way of learning how to defend yourself and the people you care about. Grilling steak, well, that's just kind of one of those things that's kind of like a, how do I put it, like a trial into manhood. Not a trial, that's the wrong term, but it's basically like just an activity that we often ascribe masculinity to. So it's one of those things where guys just want to learn how to do it because it makes them feel like they are more of a man. I mean, when you get down to it, in today's society, we don't really have a defining line between boys and men. Like, there isn't a place where you feel like you transition from being a boy to now you're a man. Women have it very different because as soon as they hit their period, that's basically, okay, you're a girl, now you're a woman. But guys, we don't have anything like that. And we lost all those customs, I guess, of old where they would have trials or some sort of test for boys to then become a man. Like, I've heard with Native Americans, they would send their boys off on like a hunting party or something, and if they came back with like a wild boar or a deer or whatever the hell it was, then they would be a man now because they went on a hunting trip solo and were able to fend for themselves. And that proves, hey, you've now got the skills to be a man. But we don't have anything like that in today's society. So I feel like that's another reason why men are so kind of lost in today's world, because there just isn't that defining line between boyhood and manhood. So for all the guys out there, if you do want to feel more like a man, I would highly suggest, hit the gym, shoot guns, grill steak, do things that are considered more manly activities, but also beyond those things, just work on yourself. Get to a place where you can respect yourself and know your worth and know what you bring to the table. Stop pursuing women so freaking much. Stop placing all this value on them. You do not need a woman in your life to be happy. And if you focus solely on that, you're going to be forgetting all these other important things in your life. The women will come to you when you actually just focus on yourself and on making your own life better. So do not ever make them your number one priority unless you want to be steered off track in life and get lost somewhere, because that's probably where it will lead you. But anyway, I'll end this video here because I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about how often we misuse the term alpha when referring to men, because we so often ascribe it to men just based on appearance alone, which makes little to no sense. So hopefully now you have a better idea of what a true alpha male is and how he's not this rambunctious, loud, pretending to be tough guy. Not at all. He's usually the more calm, collected, confident guy who doesn't look for trouble, but who knows he can handle himself if any trouble were to arise. And he's just doing his own thing, making his own life better and helping uplift the other people around him as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if so, the easiest way to support me is just to like, comment, share, and help the algorithm show it to more people's eyes. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci.